Welcome everyone to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's quick check-in pick a card reading is one of the series of astrologically oriented readings that I do from time to time and that I tend to put in between my normal schedule of one pick a card reading every 3 days. Normally trying to bring in this energy just a bit before a particular astrological transit comes into being or astrological event comes into being. And today's reading is all about the energy coming from the new moon and solar eclipse in Sagittarius in December, so on December the 4th. So what I'm going to do with this reading is that I'm going to do a little bit of a lengthier intro to talk to you about what my understanding of some of the key energies around this particular astrological event and how that caused me to create the question for this particular reading, which, as you know, is all about what new ideas or aims or ambitions can you bring into being and express with this new moon solar eclipse energy, and beneath that, what do you need to do to reality test that and make sure that it's secure. And that goes to some of the information about the astrology itself. So I'm going to, in the timestamps below, have a introduction section. Then I'm going to have a timestamp for when the decision is to be made about which reading to go to, and what I have here to hopefully help you decide which reading or readings to go to. So I do suggest listening to the introduction because it is interesting contextually, but that's up to you. So if you just prefer to go straight to the reading, then you can click onto the timestamp for the choice and then make your choice and go to your reading. So it's up to you. So I'll just have that additional timestamp within the description box below for this reading. So onto that introduction before I get to this particular aspect of it. So the new moon on the 4th of December, as I said, is in Sagittarius at 12 degrees. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about at the beginning of this introduction is my summary of an extremely good overview of this particular astrological event, done yet again, as I often refer to, in the channel ABLAS Roland Legrand. So Roland Legrand is an Australian astrologer who has a channel called ABLAS Roland Legrand, which I really like. I subscribe to, and I really love his overviews of things. He seems to be very thoughtful, very insightful, obviously very knowledgeable about astrology. So I certainly recommend his channel. And if you're particularly interested in the more detailed version of what I'm now going to summarize, and some of the further sort of steps on from this event, because he goes into sort of the subsequent weeks and so forth after the event, then I highly recommend checking out his channel and finding his video on the new moon on December the 4th. But if I can summarize that down, I will give you a sense about what I took from this particular event. And I'm also going to add to this, and I think I'll do this more generally going forward when there are astrological events like this. My brother was a really, really ahead of his time astrologer, and he unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but I have access to some of his great research and materials that he did on fixed stars. So what I've had a look at for this particular reading is what fixed stars might have been also connected into this sun-moon eclipse conjunction in Sagittarius, and how that also potentially adds to some of the themes that Roland talks about in his video. He doesn't talk about fixed stars. This is more from my brother's research. So I'm going to bring that in more, I think, with what I do around astrology, because I really admire what my brother did with astrology. So, okay. So basically, for what Roland was talking about, he said there's some interesting things about this. Obviously, it is the sun and the moon are conjunct. That's why we have the eclipse, which is always an important astrological event. It's in the 12th degree of Sagittarius, and it connects, it goes over in the way of getting towards it. The moon goes over in the direction to get towards the sun, and then soon thereafter, when it passes away from the sun, it is involved also with the south node, which is things being left behind, letting go, moving into the new rather than into the past. Vesta, which is all about harmony, hearth and home, balance and so forth. the sun itself, which is all about creativity, the birth of the new, the manifestation of the new. And then it goes towards Mercury, which is at 15 degrees. So there is something about expressing the new, bringing the new to the surface, whether it's a new ambition, whether it's a new career path, whether it's a new creative project, whether it's a new love. It's some activity or event or uprising of energy within you that is new and that is extremely well aspected in this particular case. The lunar eclipse in Scorpio season this year was a little bit challenging in many ways, but this has a lot of really strong positive energy around it, with one rider which I'll get to. But some of the things that are really good around this is that connection to Vesta for the harmony, Mercury for good expression. It's also well aspected to Chiron. So Chiron is the wounded healer. It is about healing. It's about health. It suggests the uncovering of the new in relation to health and well-being. So we will have a look at that in this reading. It's also well aspected to Saturn, and Saturn brings things into being and gives you something reliable and strong and structured. And it's also very rational. And that's important because Roland was saying that the one tension aspect that you have to bear in mind when you're birthing the new is that this particular aspect is in a difficult aspect, a square aspect to Neptune. And Neptune can be the ideal. It can be idealism, the perfection, all our dreams coming true, but it equally can be where we get confused, where we're believing something more than actually having it proven. And so the challenge of this, Roland was saying, and I can see this, is about birthing the new, expressing what's new, a change that might have come, in fact, even from the lunar eclipse before. If you went through a bit of a dark night of the soul, you may be ready to express something new about yourself, to change your life in some way. All of that is wonderful, but connecting it to Neptune, it connects to belief in some way. And so it's necessary also to make sure you're clear about your facts and that you take as rational an approach as you can with this energy. And when you make the decision about what and how to express things, think about the facts as well as the beliefs around things. So what Roland was saying made me think that the question to ask for this is about what is new that's being born within you that you could express, that you can bring forward. That's the first part of the tarot, looking at this. And then we'll also use tarot to have a look at what do you need to bring into focus in terms of facts. You know, what might you not be seeing, or what might you need to really put a laser-like focus on to make sure that there is a solid grounding, and using that positive Saturn energy for that, for instance. Now, the interesting thing, as I say, Roland didn't talk about fixed stars, but I looked up the fixed stars that are near to 12 Sagittarius, and there are two that are actually at 11 Sagittarius. The first is one called Nu Doradus, and that is in the constellation of the golden fish. So that sounds pretty promising, the golden fish in terms of manifestation and positive energy. And it seems that this fixed star helps with being goal focused, and is well contained around emotion and energy, which I think is a very positive thing. It's a bit like using the Saturn energy as well that I was talking about. It's about inner self-confidence, certainty in something. So I do think for many of these readings, it's going to be about something within yourself, whether it is an ambition you have or whether it's an aspect of your personality or how you want to relate. There is a sense of having a stronger sense of certainty about what you're doing with this fixed star. And it's very strong for manifestation. Interestingly enough, this, of course, I mean, with the sun and the moon here, Nietzsche had the moon here. So Nietzsche was all about man and Superman and all of those sort of things. So I guess on that level, it's also about making sure that this is well balanced, that it's not grandiose, but that it is clear about being true to who you are. The other fixed star that it's close to is Rassilison. I may not be pronouncing that correctly, but it's in the Draco constellation, and it's literally called the Eye of the Dragon. So I kind of like that, given the name of my tarot channel. This is all about tremendous power and new vision and creativity, and again, manifestation. So this particular eclipse is not only well aspected by Saturn, as I said, and connected to Mercury for communication and Vesta for harmony. But it's also incredibly powerful in terms of fixed stars around bringing something into being. And one of the things that Roland talked about was making sure that you are clear on your decisions using that Saturn energy really well, but not delaying on it, that there are almost like an opportunity window for this of around about 2 weeks to really start to bring something forward. It doesn't mean something has to be complete, but it does mean that you want to really strike while the fire is hot, basically. Really take the step and look at how to use this energy rather than just letting it pass by. If there's anything new, creative, or even true to your identity that you want to bring forward. So that's the introduction. That's why I want to be looking at what is new that's being born at this time for you that you can express. And I want to have a look at what you need to focus on to make sure that your facts are right and you have a solid foundation. Then we're going to have a look at various oracle cards to give support through this decision-making process. It really seems to me, the more I listen to Roland, the more I get the feeling that all of these sorts of new moons, various phases in the moon cycles, are really good points for decision making in one form or another. Often what to sort of bring in that's new, what to reconsider, what to harvest, what to let go. They seem to give a very powerful underpinning for that. So that's why I thought it would be worth doing a quick check-in reading. As I've said in other videos around this, I do slightly shorter readings when I do these sorts of videos, so around about 15 to 20 minutes at the most, and they're really focusing in on this key question. What I've done, and now we'll be at the point in the timestamps where we're talking about choosing the reading, is that for each of the readings I'm going to put down a number, because this was actually asked by a viewer and I think it's a great idea, just to sort of make it clear what I'm talking about in each case, for anybody who likes visual cues or anybody who likes to choose by the number. So the first reading, I'm going to use different tarot packs for each of these readings, and I've taken the Sun card out of each of those tarot packs to help with choosing, so you get a sense of the energy of the tarot pack that's being used. Might help you choose. And also I chose the Sun rather than the Moon because I think the Sun is what's really important in this one. There's a real sense of the creative energy around this, and that's what I really want to focus on. So the first reading, pile 1, is using the Dream Vision Tarot. So I have the Sun card from the Dream Vision Tarot. Pile 2 has the Cute and Creepy Tarot. Its Sun card is there. Pile 3 has the White Fly Tarot with its Sun card, and Pile 4 has the Flights of Fantasy Tarot with its Sun card. I don't know whether the Sun cards will come up in any of these readings. They'll be reshuffled back into the deck. So it's really just more to give you a sense of the colour, feeling and energy of these particular decks. And I really went for decks that I think have a really strong, colourful energy to them for this reading as well too, because of the nature of the reading and a sense of warmth. So hopefully the deck, the card there, the number, or some other way that you tune in will help you tune in to find the right reading for you. By all means, go to more than one if you feel drawn to more than one, because there might be a couple of things that are waiting to be born and expressed in you in this period of time. But of course, as always, when you know which reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps for them are also in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So the first cards that I have laid out here are from the Dream Vision Tarot, and they're looking at what is the area in your life or the type of energy that we're looking at that has the opportunity now to be created and expressed and brought into being using the energy of this astrological event. And I think there's two things that are very clear from this, and it could be one or either, or it could be both. There's one that is about relationship, a new relationship potentially, likely to be a love relationship, but could be a close friendship as well, and bringing that into being and understanding what that is and bringing it into a balance, possibly after a period of time where there's been a little bit of battle or debate around philosophy or lifestyles or culture or where you're going to live or any of those sort of things, but it's certainly coming into a better period of time and a lot more harmony and potentially healing around any of those sorts of debates or issues. So if any of you are around, as I say, a love relationship or a friendship, or even things within family around that, the fact that we have the Star, the Nine of Cups, the Twins, which is lovers in this pack, but lovers, of course, can be any type of relationship, and the Six of Pentacles, which is about greater reciprocity, generosity of spirit, connected to all this very positive energy with some issues around philosophy with the Five of Swords. So there's a little bit of maybe there's still some residual areas where there needs to be a discussion around where you live, if it's a love relationship, for instance. If it's in the family, like maybe there's some family dispute that's going on and you need to sort of work out where you sit on that. If it's around friendship, it may be debate about where to put energy and resources. If it's actually a work collaboration, it may also be a debate about where best to put money and time in some way. But there's certainly a sense that there is greater harmony coming in. And you in particular have a greater sense of hope. So I do think that many of the people who've come to this reading, probably, as I say, coming off that lunar eclipse in November, I suspect that November and last Scorpio season was a bit heavy for you. There might have been a period of time of the dark night of the soul, because I feel like the Star always follows those sorts of energies. It's the renewal of hope and the renewal of a sense of enlightenment and openness and so forth, and it's got something to do with other people and the connections to other people. The other side of this that I get quite strongly is something creative. So if you have been working on something creative, then you are definitely coming into a time where there is the capacity to get the support for that on a material level, potentially a benefactor, a patron in some way, or something like that. It does look as though you again have had to look at almost the details around things. It could have been legal details. It could also be just the sort of fine tuning of whatever the thing was. So say you were a writer, it might have been that you've been going through a period of editing and there may still be a little bit of that left to go. But there is a harmony around this. It's a good energy to take out and to manifest your dreams with the Nine of Cups. So there's definitely a sense, again, at that there is something creative you can come out and really bring into the world. And if there are still some remaining precision elements of it, that's probably picking up that Saturn energy that I was talking about in the introduction really well. It's taking the input from others that is generously given. It's not given in a way to limit you. It's actually given in a way to make the thing better or more marketable or something like that, and recognizing that harmony. So either way, there's either relationship in general, and I think for many this may be a love relationship that has gone through some issues but is becoming more harmonious, or it could be, as I say, something creative or in your career. But in that case, there's definitely the opportunity to get the right support, I think, and very much material support or industry support in some way. So what you need to express at this point is that journey, is that hope, is that sense of harmony. You've kind of got everything together already, part one. So that's the good news for you. You're very, very well placed for this particular energy. There is still some residual stuff there, but I actually think that is a good thing. I'm glad to see the Five of Swords there because, as I said in the beginning, part of the energy around this is that one can go too much into the dream of something and not into the detail. This means that you're still aware there are details that need to be paid attention to. And it's good that it's the Nine of Cups rather than, say, the Seven of Cups. If the Seven of Cups had come up with the Star, then I would be almost overemphasizing this energy at the moment, because it would be saying the Seven of Cups feels to me very Neptunian. So it would be you need to make sure that your hopes are realistic, but this is suggesting that they are. So given that you're very well poised to use this energy positively, I want to ask the tarot a second line of questioning, which is around what do you need to either uncover or really focus on in some way to make sure that your facts are right, that all your ducks are in a row, so to speak, for what you're trying to achieve, be it in a relationship or something creative or career oriented. Okay, so now we see, I think, the dark night of the soul that maybe has brought you to this better scenario, but you're still processing some of this by the looks of things. there are issues around you, and this is partly what you need to be focusing on. You need to be bringing up the harmony and the mutual generosity, the mutual reciprocity of this energy. Not just hoping for it to occur, but making sure it occurs. And what I like to see here is the Queen of Swords, because I think the Queen of Swords here is you. Doesn't matter what gender you are. It's you being very clear on what it means to you for the harmony that you're looking for and what you're trying to achieve. Because around you, I think over the last few months potentially, there's been a lot of information surfacing that might have been surprising. In some cases, you may have found that people that you thought were supports for you were not, that they actually had a hidden agenda or that they were competing with you in some way. But it seems that you have that information now. You also have the key to freedom from something that might have actually constrained your happiness in whatever it was that you were talking about. So for some of you, if you are in a relationship at the moment, it's possible that what's coming in is a new relationship. The worst case scenario reading of this is that you've uncovered a relationship that was not working for you. And in understanding that and moving on, you bring in the energy for a much better relationship. But for others of you, it may be that there was a lot of other influence around your relationship, friendships, family, and so forth. And it's become clearer and clearer that listening to that and not going to your own knowing and what you want in a relationship was constraining you. But your focus has been on freedom. Part of this star energy is about being free. So it's either free of a relationship that hasn't worked to bring in a better energy, and you're still sorting through the outcome of that, but it's a positive energy because it's going to bring in something much better for you. Or you're going to express something that shifts the relationship. Or I think it's more likely to be for many, if it's around a relationship, it's around friendships or family or other influences, work influences or something like that has constrained and stopped you from fully manifesting your dream of this. But it's your intellectual precision that's helping you understand this and find your way through lies. Like there's literally some lies potentially around this. And if this is around something creative, again, your precision is uncovering where there's something that was not fully supporting you, not in alignment with what you were trying to achieve, or even in some cases, it may literally have been something where it was contractually not to your advantage. But knowing that and cutting your losses so that you can bring through the better energy is good. I am getting that for some of you, if it is around something creative, you may have been on the precipice of signing something and it looked great, but when you really look into what some of the limitations are, you may decide there's too much that you are giving up to get that, and you may get the information that you need to make sure that you understand that. So I'm getting, certainly if it's creative, maybe get some good legal advice, because the thing that you've created is wonderful. So don't sell it short, I guess is what I'm saying. Don't take the first offer that comes along. Make sure you use that incredible mind there, that really acute understanding of things, and particularly around the legalities of things. And if it's in a relationship, as I say, it may be shifting the nature of the relationship. It may be reconnecting after you found out that there was a lot of gossip and stuff being said that wasn't true, or it may be moving on from a relationship that had made you feel too constrained. But in terms of what you're articulating what it is for you to feel happy and harmonious in your career, in your creativity, in your relationship. And you are the one who's leading the argument about that with the Queen of Swords. And I like to see that, because there does appear to be, and I think you're aware of it, but be aware of it if you're not, a lot of information around you that's not really quite what it appears, and which, if it's not understood, could trap you and reduce what you could get out of something, reduce your happiness in something. So the important energy here for you is to know that there are some wonderful opportunities around you, but to be very clear and very practical about that, whether it's a love relationship or whether it's a creative or a work opportunity. Make sure you get the details and you have the final say in this time period. But you will get the information you need, particularly if there's anything where it's not what it appears. You are going to get that information. You're laser-like. People can't pull the wool over your eyes. You will do the research that you need to do to get to it. The other thing I'm getting for some is that the Magician here, for some, particularly around the creative stuff, it may not actually be saying somebody duplicitous in this case. I think you will find out whatever you need to find out about the fairness of anything and how to negotiate from a position of strength. The Magician is sometimes, when it's reversed, when you don't feel as confident as you could. So this is certainly saying that in the process of working this out and on what limitations there may be within a relationship or within creativity, don't underestimate yourself. I don't think you will with the Queen of Swords upright. I think you'll be very, very clear and very, very strong. But I think if anybody saw a chink in your armour, it might be about whether they could pretend to be an expert on something that you weren't an expert on or something like that. Your inner knowing and your acuity is very, very strong, so don't underestimate that. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the oracle cards that were under the card that brought you to this reading. So firstly, there's a couple of cards from the Heart Code Oracles. These talk about different aspects of life. So I've drawn a card for each of these readings intuitively to look at both well-being and lifestyle, because I feel with some of the energies around this, it is around health, happiness and so forth. And I do think there's a lot to be celebrated there, but there's a little bit of mental stress and communication stress there. So let's see what energies are coming up for lifestyle and well-being. And we get mental health. So there you go. You've been under quite a bit of stress, I think. And we get obligation. Okay. So this is suggesting whether we're talking about a love relationship, as I said at the beginning, or a friendship or a family relationship, or whether we're talking about some sort of career or contractual thing. And I got both of those, so I think it'll just depend on who's come to this reading. You have been through quite a bit of stress. I do think probably most of you would resonate to the concept that November this year was fairly full on. And I think you've gone through a lot of the thinking you need to do, but you've just got to stay believing in yourself around that. I think your mental health is fine because you can move to your head and you can live quite comfortably in your head. But I think that people may try and pull the wool over your eyes, may try to, with the Magician reversed there and the High Priestess reversed, may try to indicate that you're not seeing something clearly, or you're too much of a Pollyanna or something. That's not true. You can look at the depths of things much more than most people can. So, but it does suggest take time out, rest and so forth. You take the time that you need to make this decision. Don't rush into anything until your mind is happy. Your mind must be happy, or the power of your mind could bring about a diminution of what you're trying to create. And there's also obligation. You may feel obliged to certain people, family, relationships, whatever it is. But the point about this energy is expressing what it is to make you happy and what would make a reciprocal relationship operate in whatever form it is, and to take the battle out of it, to take a position where obligation has to be mutual. It can't just be one way. It can't just be you. And that may be part of working your way through anything that's a bit manipulative around you, remembering that obligation is mutual, that you are not just there to put up with anything or take anything. You have a lot to bring to the table, whether it's creatively or romantically or as a friend, and you're very, very sharp. But some of the people around you, I think, try to take the idealistic side of you and turn that against you by making it an obligation. But it needs to be both ways. It needs to be like the Six of Pentacles. Okay, so we also have a card for creativity, because we want to look at the creative energy around you. What are you creating and expressing? And this says play. And I think that's a really lovely energy to be around you if you're dealing with kind of mental strain from everything that you've been going through recently and trying to bring yourself into this space that is a lot happier. And if you're trying to deal with people who are trying to put obligations on you, then the creative space for you to bring yourself to happiness is play. And I think that also brings in that sense of reciprocity and that sense of collaboration that you can get with the Six of Pentacles. So focus on that. Focus on what is fun, because your mind can pick up all the rest of it very fast, faster than the other people around you. But focus on what is fun so that you don't get too serious, because the Queen of Swords could get too serious sometimes as well too. But remember, the key energy is very creative and very positive. I also used a deck called Into the Lonely Woods to get a kind of companion, supportive energy for you at this time. And it says your presence is a gift to others. And I think that's true. I think your energy is very, very positive. And I think that people exploit it sometimes, Pile 1. But I think you know that now. I think you've gone through something where you've realized that. And I think you've started to realize what it is about you in terms of both your sort of creativity and warmth, but also your very, very strong intelligence, what that brings to the table. So I think this is really a message over and over about honoring who you are and what you bring to the table in this scenario. So to support that, I want to use a deck to look at what spiritual gifts and so forth you can use at this time to particularly make sure that laser focus is right, that you make the right decisions, you find out the right information, and that you move towards what is joyous for you. And then we are going to complete the reading with the Astro Chakra cards for some astrological and chakra energy information for you. So firstly, let's look at some gifts that you can use at this time. Gifts or approaches that you can use. Okay, so we've got firstly clear sentience, which is clear feeling. I think that's really interesting because to me it is almost this side of the reading, the beginning of the reading. There seemed to be, with the Nine of Cups and the Star, it just felt like there was a lot of emotional connection, emotional warmth and so forth. And that is feeling, through your feelings. It's knowing through your feelings. It's getting to the truth of it by going, say, to the heart chakra, to your feelings. Because you do live quite a bit in your head, and your head is very, very sharp and very, very good. And it is important for this aspect of the reading, which is making sure you have your facts. But I think you're going to find that the facts that you are starting to uncover align with what your gut instinct was. So I think that some of this is going to teach you how clairsentient you are, that your feelings, what you feel in your body, what you feel in your emotions are very on point. We also have Diamond Child here, which is people born between 2010 and 2011. So that's quite young. There could be a child involved in this. So there could be somebody who is relatively young, as I say, a child of yours, a child in a family. It could also be that it's not actually a person in this case. I'm getting, for some of you, it could be that an idea or a concept that you had for something, its early germination, its early seed was around about 2010, 2011. So the energy that tends to be around diamond children, which is highly spiritual, came to you, but maybe in a creative form in some way. So it could be that there's something from that time that is now manifesting for you as the thing that can bring in the happiness. It could also be that if it's another person in a relationship, maybe they have a child born in that time or a connection to somebody in that time, or maybe you even met in that time originally. So I think it's anchoring to those years of 2010 and 2011, the energies around diamond children rather than a child. But for some, it may literally be a child of yours or a child that you're around that is connected in some way to what you can manifest and bring into the world. So last but not least, I'm going to pull 3 Astro Chakra cards just to sort of bring this all together in terms of what you can do with this. I think very favourable energy, and with, I think, the very strong preparation you've already done for it, whether you were sort of knowingly doing that because you wanted to bring something into being in December or early 2022, for instance, or whether it's just you've instinctively known to do that and you've done the work that you needed to do. So let's see. Okay, so we have 3 different chakras being particularly activated at the moment. The first one is the solar plexus. So this is about who you are, and I feel like this is very much where you are now. You are now at a point where you know who you are. You know that your presence is a gift to others. You know all of that, and you're feeling stronger. The Plutonian transformational energy, and so much of what I'm feeling in this row of tarot cards is Plutonian. It's going to sometimes the lower energies and so forth. The dark night of the soul, as I say, to go through the transformation that you need to understand how powerful you truly are. So that's there. You've got the survival or the root chakra energy. So that's all about the foundation of you. This is very important to the foundation of your life in some way. And I do think it tells me that it's something that has been in the works for a while and very likely to be creative. This is where Neptune may potentially work very well for you because it is coming up as inspiration here and as reward. So I think it's saying that Neptune energy for this, because you've done the work, is going to work for you well. It's not going to trip you up in the way that it might trip up other people around these particular astrological transits. And then you'll be able to communicate that originality, that inspiration with Uranus in the 5th chakra or the throat chakra. So remember, this is all about being able to communicate something using Mercury really strongly. And Uranus is about your individuality. So there's something about you really coming into who you are. But I do feel that in the process of it, you come into very good relationships, whether it's love, family, friendships, work, or whatever. I feel the work you've done on yourself and what you want to bring into the world is about to really start to pay off. And I think for you, 2022 is going to be amazing because I think you know who you are now, pile one. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So these first tarot cards from the tarot pack that the Sun card drew you to this reading are meant to give us a sense about what's the area in your life that something new is emerging, something that you are going to communicate in some way that is using this beautiful creative energy of the solar eclipse and the healing energies and so forth. And I do feel for my pile 2, this is about owning your own sovereignty. This is about coming into your own power, both spiritually, I think, but also sort of materially and emotionally. This does look to me like most people who've come here are coming out of being in a situation, either in a romantic relationship or in a family or a friendship, or even just culturally, where you're coming into alignment with and more faith with and more creative energy with your what we would call divine feminine side. And that doesn't mean you have to be a woman. It's not about gender. It's about the feminine sort of side of the spiritual spectrum, having been maybe for some period of time suppressed more by the divine masculine. Now, whether that was by an actual person who was strongly exemplify the divine masculine, and again, I'm trying not to get into gender here. I'm trying to talk about the sort of spiritual things. So the divine masculine about sort of ambition and activity and power and all of those sort of things, as opposed to the sort of receptivity and caring and nurturing and so forth on the divine feminine side. There may have been a relationship like that you are dealing with and coming out of, or becoming clear about and able to now more express who you are and what you want at this point, which could repair the relationship with the Chiron energy. It doesn't mean this relationship, whatever type of relationship it is, has to end, but the balance is going to come back into being. You have an opportunity to do that. Or it may even be that in something like your career or something like that, you have had an aha moment about bringing yourself forward and standing in your own strength rather than following, say, the culture or dictates of a workplace or a community that you're in or something like that, and really manifesting the sort of spiritual and divine feminine. I mean, this is very strong because you've got 2 kings, 2 queens, and the high priestess. Really interesting group of energies. The high priestess, I think, is telling us already, and we'll see more with the next line, that you will work very well with the Neptunian energies around at the moment. You are, in your inner knowing and your psychic ability, you'll really be able to tune into that. But the upright energies here are the queens. So the Queen of Cups, which is all about emotional authenticity, and the Queen of Pentacles, which is about material success, material constancy, material stability and warmth and growth and manifestation and all of those sort of things. Whereas with the King of Swords and the King of Pentacles, they're both reversed. That King of Pentacles reverse suggests to me ways in the material world that were not serving you and were not serving the group that you're in or the relationship that you're in. They're old-fashioned ways, in a way, that you've brought the new in and so forth, and you are in a stronger position around it. And the King of Swords could be someone who used philosophy and argument and debate and rules and regulations to be a little bit too controlling and so forth, or even potentially not honest in some way. There's a move towards greater honesty, greater authenticity, greater strength, greater inner knowing. If this is you, then it may be that it's saying that you've gone through a process of working out that there are ways, things that you believed in and things that you followed and did that no longer serve you, that actually constrain you in some way. So it could be that you are moving out away from a spiritual practice or away from a belief structure or the way that you were brought up or something like that, because you're becoming more authentically who you are. Either way, you're very much doing it through your inner knowing and through a psychic ability. And if this is something in the career or political realm or something like that, this has a very strong vanquish the less rational and the less honest aspects to bring about something that has more of a potential for growth, authenticity, and a spiritual values connection. For some of you, I'm getting you could literally leave a workplace, go to a new workplace, have a new job that comes to you that is far more in alignment with your values than where you've been before, for instance. Really strong though, you're in a really strong position and really well positioned for this. And as I say, you are going to work with the Neptune energy well, but let's ask the tarot what you need to really focus on to make sure that you don't get waylaid or the Neptunian energy doesn't sort of make you too idealistic and not practical enough or whatever it might be. Oh, and there's another queen. My goodness, you're amazing. Okay, so again, the Queen of Swords, you see, that's upright again. Your thought processes are much better than whatever it is that you're moving away from, whether it was a way that you used to think or whether it's people that you work with or whether it's a relationship that was dominating but not particularly solid, sound, reliable, sensible, rational, whatever it might have been. You are very clear on that, and it's interesting that it almost feels like it's clarifying the Queen of Cups with the Queen of Swords. So you are both heart and head. That's great. And where we're talking about the Queen of Pentacles is the resources that you use and so forth, you have judgment. So there is a clarity, there is decisions coming to you. I think there is actually quite a key decision you could make in this period of time around your career or who you are in the world, or opportunities to elevate yourself or your beliefs in some way. And the thing about the Judgment card when it comes up is that you usually do need to grab that opportunity, otherwise it passes. It doesn't mean that it's terrible if it does, but it just means that opportunity passes. It's not something you can delay. And if you listen to the introduction, there was part of what Roland Legrand talked about was that there's around about a 2-week period from memory after which various other planets got round to Uranus. And he was saying that suggested that if you hadn't made the decision that's on your plate at the moment, by then you may regret not having made it, or the opportunity may pass. So I do think for you there's a material decision to make in this period of time, but I think you're really well placed for it. And you are really well balanced, far more balanced than whatever the energy was from the past, whether that was you before and you were going down rabbit warrens and wasting energy, and now you've really used your inner knowing and you've focused where you need to, or whether this, and I think it's more the case more generally, is other people, relationships, colleagues, whatever it might be, that are no longer serving the purpose that you're heading in and can't keep up with you really. You're very fast. Therein, however, lies the one challenge in all of this. You are balanced, you're able to make decisions, your mind is really sharp, as well as your emotions and your sort of resources. But your ambition and whatever this idea is more youthful in a way than what you've developed to. And what I mean by that is all these queens, and then you've even got kings, but they're the past moving out. So the queen energy is here very, very strongly. And so Queen Cups, Queen Swords, Queen Pentacles. But there is not a Queen of Wands. We have a Knight of Wands. So in an almost sort of like maturation level, the Knight is a little bit earlier than the Queen. It's not a lot behind, but it's a little bit earlier. So this says to me that your ambition is not yet as fully formed as maybe your capacity. And what can happen with the Knight of Wands sometimes is it sometimes makes knee-jerk sort of reactions. It just dives into things before it thinks it through. I don't think it's all that likely with the Queen of Swords there, but I think it is definitely saying, given that this is about what you need to focus on, really do focus on the details, because again, whatever this is, whatever this opportunity is, it's very new. It's a blessing as it's an ace, and it's a new approach, it's a new philosophy, it's a new inspiration in some way, but it's still new. And so the ambition around it should also in a way be new. I think this is saying that the focus should be on the details at this point in time, and not thinking, oh, this is going to be the next bestseller. Maybe that, if it's a novel, for instance, make it that this is my next work that I really feel has brought a maturity to my authorship, for instance. Or if it's a new relationship, this feels like a relationship that has more ongoing support to it, and it's passionate, but I'm not yet sure about how that's going to connect with the actualized me. Like it's understanding that there is some work to be done to really work out what this is, and to not take you backwards from this Queen energy, because I think you've really worked out something that didn't work in the past, and you're really, really tuned in. But maybe part of what brought you into that energy in the first place was rushing once something seemed exciting. So this is saying just get a little bit more balance around it. Make a decision if you need to make a decision, but then use your mind, your very clever mind, to step your way through the next bits and to keep everything in balance. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the cards that were under the tarot card that brought you here. So firstly, there's a couple of cards from the Heart Code Oracles, which are a series of oracles that look at things including lifestyle and well-being. So I particularly wanted to look at cards from those aspects of those oracles for this, because of the Chiron energy and that sense about well-being and health and happiness that could be accessed in this time. So for you, we have around well-being, activity, and around lifestyle, we have message. So yes, there's something new. This is confirming there's something new coming in. If you haven't already heard it, if you aren't already aware what it is, I think you've psychically picked up it's coming. There's a message coming. It could be literally an offer, an email, something like that, particularly with the Swords energy, with sort of electronic sort of technology, electricity sort of energy. It could also be a synchronicity, a dream or something like that. So pay attention to that, because you are very psychic. But there's a message coming in that is key to you maximizing the best outcome of this energy for your lifestyle. And for your well-being, you need to act. So it is giving you a challenge here, I have to say, Pile 2. It is saying that you do need to act, you do need to do something once this message comes through. There's a time clock on it. But it's act with all that maturity that you already have. Don't sort of rush into something. You probably need to make the decision relatively quickly, but don't then rush into the next steps into bringing it into being. Plan and structure your activity using that maturity and the learnings you have, so that you don't have this sense of something not delivering in the end. And that goes for whether it's something creative, whether it's career, whether it's relationship. It's like, take the decision to jump when you instinctively feel this is the next step and it has a lot of promise, but then the activity should be tempered with good judgment. So there's a couple of other cards before I go to some spiritual inputs that I also intuitively pulled for each of these readings. And so one is around the creative energy, and one is around a kind of companion support, sort of softer energy. So firstly, the creative energy around you at the time. We have navigation, and I think that's a beautiful way of bringing this together. As I say, it's like once you dive into the creative energy of this, you do need to navigate carefully. But I'm really confident with all those queens, you're very mature in what you do. As long as you don't let your sort of excitement sort of take you off course, then if your activities are well navigated, it can only go towards your North Star. It can only go towards something that is really going to maximize your happiness, your sort of intellectual capacity, and I think with the Queen of Pentacles, potentially really good outcome materially, or in terms of, if it's around a relationship, in terms of stability, security, commitment, and so forth. The sort of companion, the companion thing says gifts of the lonely path. I do think this is suggesting that for some of you, you're leaving behind a relationship, or you have recently, or you've been alone for quite a while, and part of that was because you hadn't been able to find someone at your level, someone who you maybe found people who thought they were but just weren't. But there is a sense here maybe that this is a journey you take alone. It doesn't mean that you have to be without a relationship at any point, but it does perhaps say that this is something very pure to you, that you have to navigate yourself, and that there are gifts to be said for that, that really, I think, will bring this Knight of Wands up to the Queen of Wands, and then you have the full suits and that energy. That's the path you're on, I think. It is going to your full sovereignty, as I said right at the beginning. So let's see what spiritual gifts might help you on this particular lonely, but I think incredibly positive and incredibly rewarding pathway. Oh my goodness. Okay. So firstly, we have meditation teacher, teaching and healing and wellness and so forth. Very nice energy around Chiron with this. It may mean that you are able to do this. There might be something in this in terms of meditation and you can help others and teach others with it, and it may be somehow connected to your pathway, particularly if you're resonating to the High Priestess and whatever this is spiritual in some way. Otherwise, a meditation teacher and meditation practice might help you. We also have demonologists. Now, don't worry, I don't think this means demons are around you. This is generally about banishing negative energy. And so at its most extreme, it is obviously banishing entity energy. But I don't feel that around you. I think this is more the concept of banishing the negative energy that was in the past and your capacity to do that. And I think you are able to do that with the High Priestess. So I think this is saying that you are able to recognize and banish that which is negative energy. And part of how you understand and get to that is through meditation, through going within and going, because you are so developed yourself. And that helps your judgment be right. But if there was negative energy, it's going to come from wanting to rush too quickly into something because of ambition or excitement. So it's more your own inner demons around that you need to be aware of, not something external. Because I feel if there was something external, you've pretty much got rid of that, or part of what you're communicating in this period of time will move that energy out away from you. So let's finish up with Astro Chakra cards, just to bring it all together for some astrology and chakra energy combinations to help you in this period of time. Okay. So firstly, we've got creativity, and there, I think you're creating yourself, and I think you are a work in progress, but I think you are a significantly advanced work in progress. And I think that's why we have Jupiter here for wisdom, and it's all about the sacral chakra. It's around creativity, around fertility, around all of that kind of thing, and it's about honesty here. So you are being your authentic self. And you are banishing, even with negative energy, you're banishing that which is no longer authentic, people, situations, or even aspects of yourself, because this is a creative process to navigate towards who you are and to be able to communicate what that transformation is. It's interesting that this is the fifth chakra, which is communication, which picks up the Mercury energy around at the moment, and we have Pluto as a transformative energy there to revitalize. So I do think for some of you, this energy is not another person, it's an aspect of yourself, and you're letting what didn't work go and revitalizing yourself with the wisdom that you have achieved and taking that out in a creative way. And this makes you feel more safe, more grounded and more committed around the things that you love. And that could be the people that you love, it could be self-love, it could be love for creative things and so forth. But it's like this is a bit of a journey. The creativity that brought you the wisdom helped you then communicate what you needed to change, move from your life, so that you then came back to feeling safe to love what you love. So I actually think it's a really positive energy. I think you've done a hell of a lot of work. And as I say, as long as you don't sort of slip into impatience and just rush into things before they're ready, the only way is up for you, I think, Pole 2. So I hope that resonates for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share, love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pole 3, to your reading. So these first cards here from the tarot deck that you chose to come to this reading are meant to give us an idea about what the new creative energy, the new communication around you is for this solar eclipse. And then we'll have a look at what you need to really focus on or be aware of to make the most of this. And it's interesting that all these cards are reversed. You know, that's somewhat unusual. I guess it's probably no more unusual than 5 cards being put down and all being upright as well. But in this, I feel that core energy is around the Fool reverse, because the Fool reverse to me is around pragmatism. So I think there's something highly pragmatic about your approach to things coming up to this solar eclipse and what you will communicate and create at this time. There's lessons that you've learned, and with the other reverse cards here, they haven't been easy. I do think that many of you probably went through quite a bit in the last Scorpio season, last November, and the lunar eclipse there, because that was fairly heavy. So I think the people who've come to this reading may relate to that. And even before that, I mean, you may well be someone who has had, for whatever reason, more to deal with through 2021 and even 2020. I mean, the world as a whole has. You may, in fact, I'm getting some of you may be the sort of people who absorb the energy of the world a lot, and that some of this is around the things that you see on the macro impacting the micro of your life, because you're somehow very dialed in and connected to the collective. So that's going to be true for some of you if that resonates. For others, I just think for whatever reason, whether it's that you were you lost a job, or you had to sort of work from home all the time, or you felt isolated from people or whatever, but there is definitely a point of working out what to let go of and to come back out of that. I do think for many with the Four of Swords reversed, it is things like being in lockdown or something like that around the pandemic, or something that has kept you or made you feel that you had to sort of step back and not be too seen. So maybe something's occurred in your love life or in your career or something like that, where you felt like you couldn't speak out. But you've learned from that. You've got the getting of wisdom that the Fool card reversed says. And I think that this is all about making a decision. I think about whether or not whatever this scenario is, whatever it is worth resurrecting and building and doing something with and speaking out about, or whether it's to move away from it. And why I say that's the decision is we've got the Queen of Cups and the King of Swords both reversed. I feel like they may be people around you, or you may be one of them. So the Queen of Cups, when it's upright, it's a very emotionally authentic and mature person. When it's reversed, it can be someone who either doesn't feel confident in their emotions, so that could be you potentially, or it could be someone who is outright duplicitous and manipulative if it's someone around you who uses emotion as a bit of a blackmail in some way. This could be someone who's literally in your life at the moment, or it might be a patterning from the past in some way. And the King of Swords when reversed, so when it's upright, it's a very justice oriented, very fair, very clever, very, very structured, thoughtful sort of person. When reversed, it can be the opposite of that, and it can be sort of not particularly intellectually consistent. At worst, it could be someone, again, who's duplicitous, someone who lies, someone who manipulates. So I do feel for a few of you there's manipulative energy, and it's interesting that we have the Three of Pentacles reversed. So the Three of Pentacles upright is the collaboration, the working together sort of card. It's more in the working environment. I feel like this is more around working environment, politics or whatever than romance. I mean, it may be romance, but I feel like it's, or even friendship. It could be, but Three of Cups is more the friendship sort of side of things. The Three of Pentacles has a more material thing associated with it. So I feel like for many of you, you've maybe been working with one or more people on something, a creative project, a work situation, whatever it might be, and you're starting to have a pragmatic view about whether this is something that can be resurrected. And then if that's the case, can it be resurrected with the same people? Or is it something that you need to let go of so that you can bring something new in? Because you have got the getting of wisdom, and you are ready, I think, to speak your truth about this and to bring that clarity to it. And I think you are, if you are around other people, you're the one person who's really understood it. And even if this is fuzzy feeling and fuzzy thinking as opposed to duplicitous, you are the voice of reason around whatever this is. So let's ask the cards what you need to focus on. I think you've been doing quite a bit of focusing, but what do you need to focus on, and where do you need to get facts to make sure that you make the right decision about this? Like, do you stay working with or connected to these people? Do you move on? Do you stay doing whatever you've been working on but just take a more pragmatic approach, or do you start something new? So what do you need to focus on to make that right decision? Okay, so firstly, Firstly, you need to really ask the question of yourself about whether your connection with the other people around this is more emotional than rational. Because with the Ace of Cups and Two of Cups reversed, it suggests to me that you are someone who can sometimes make your decisions from your heart rather than necessarily from the rational. And part of the energy of this astrological thing is to be as rational as possible. You have, through hard won, I think, become more pragmatic about that, as I said, with the Fool reversed. But part of the thing you really need to work about is there any sentimentality? Is there any sort of heart-centered things where you maybe hold on to something that is no longer working? And whether it's friendships, and it could be love and friendships potentially. I do think, though, for most, it connects to something more material. It could be, I'm getting that for some of you, it may be about our love relationship and will it move to something that is more committed, and should it move to something that's more committed? If that is the case, then you really need to work out, are you going to get, in a sense, the return on investment emotionally from this situation? And I feel in most cases the answer to that may well be no, because there's something disconnecting here about beliefs almost, potentially. But certainly, if this is about you deciding whether to stay in a collaboration, for instance, or to start one that was sort of in its early beginnings and see if you can make it work, make sure that you're not really focusing on your heart around it, because at the moment that's not going to be that accurate. Equally, you need to lead this. You need to be the one who really has the vision, because the Two of Wands is reversed too. So if there is battles around the vision of whatever this is, then that will tell you something. You need to be pragmatic that those battles are not likely to shift. And so you have to make the decision, can I speak my truth? Can I keep on with this? I mean, the Nine of Wands was the right way up. It's sort of the courage to keep on keeping on. When it's reversed, it tends to be where you're feeling that you have to be really careful about everything that you do, really careful about offending anybody, all of that sort of thing. And does that get in the way of the blessing and the outcome? And again, it's a material outcome. I do feel that the fundamental question for you at the moment is, can you speak your truth and what you've learned and lead out on this, rather than just sort of going along with what the others want and going for harmony? Because remember, harmony was part of this, but you have to also look at the facts. Or should you go out on your own? Is this something that really, there's a new opportunity that if you let this go, there's something better that you could do? Because sticking with this looks like you're constantly dealing with balancing emotions and balancing sort of viewpoints, and whether or not you can get the others to be as pragmatic as you, I'm not sure. So I think the key question is, can you do this alone? Factually, in reality, or is there another opportunity that would be better? If this is a workplace, maybe there's an offer coming up around a new job, and that's a decision. Like, you might feel, I don't like to leave my friends, but really this is not the right place for me, and something like that. So it's all about, if you can't just do it on your own, then you need to work out how to balance these energies so you're not constantly being so careful about everything that you're doing that it just never really lands. You need to take a lead. If you can't take the lead, then maybe you need to look for something new. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the cards that were also under the tarot card that led you here. So firstly, I have a couple of cards from the Heart Code Oracles, which are a series of oracles that look at things including lifestyle and well-being. So those were cards that, oracle cards that I thought would be very important for a reading that also involves Chiron. So in terms of well-being, we have weight. And in terms of lifestyle, we have reluctance. Okay, so I don't think, I mean, in some cases around a wellbeing card, weight could mean looking at your weight, looking at your diet, all those sort of things. Maybe that's something you need to look at. I don't think that's the primary energy coming up here. I think this is about the weight of responsibility you've taken. I think it's a different sort of thing around well-being. I think you have a tendency to take on a lot of the emotion of the groups that you're in, a lot of the responsibility, and a lot of keeping the peace. And so you need to let go of that and give more weight to your voice and what you're saying. And that might be the way that you can decide it. But you are reluctant to do it. You're not someone who likes to stir the pot. You're not you have the right vision for this pile 3, you have the right skills, or whatever it is. And if it's around a relationship, you have the right view of what a relationship is, but for some reason you feel very reluctant. You're not used to stepping out and being the person who expresses what needs to be done or how something should be. So you need to think about giving more weight to your own opinions and your own needs. Okay, let's have a look at energies around the creative energy that you have at the moment with this. And we have senses. So this is, I think, saying go into what you feel, so there's almost a clairsentient sort of feeling around this. Go into what you can sense and feel around you. I think you know that there's the only way for this thing to be resolved is if you can lead out with your pragmatism and fix the situation up. And if you can't, then you need to be thinking about new horizons in whatever way it is. But go into what you sense around it, because that may help you work out, is this true? There is a possibility, I'm getting for some of you, that you may have assumed you have to do all this stuff to keep the peace. And in fact, maybe you don't. And maybe one of the things around the Ace of Pentacles is putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and speaking your truth and your pragmatism and finding out, because maybe you find out that it isn't as hyperbolic as it might have been, and that people will listen to you and that they were waiting for you to voice something. And sometimes we underestimate how much esteem we're held in, for instance. So that's a possibility. So I think there is something about testing your sense of things in some way, because otherwise you won't know. Otherwise you're always just hoping for the best that it works itself out. So to help you with that, there's another card which is sort of coming from a deck that has sort of comforting messages, companions, that sort of energy. So what we have for you is to walk the lonesome road. So I do think this is suggesting for many of you that you are going to be more in your own power when you're on your own, but it may just be saying you need to be prepared to do that. You need to be prepared to test out whether that's what you need to do. And it's interesting with this particular character walking the lonesome road, because they're attracting the birds to them. They're attracting other companions to them. So when you're prepared to stand in your truth, you either find that these people are still with you and you can move into something that has more promise, or you find new people to connect with. But you have to be prepared to do that. If you just always sit back and hope for the best, you're not going to take advantage of the pragmatism and the wisdom that you have to bring to your life and to this scenario. So let's look at what spiritual energy and gifts might be able to help you, particularly to use your senses in an acute, rational, but very clear way. Astral projection and star attunements. Okay, so astral projection is all about out-of-body experience, teleportation or whatever. It may mean that you're someone you are able to astral project. Maybe you can even go into other dimensions to sort of test it out and practice it and see what energy it feels around this in some way, or to connect with higher spirit guides to give you some information about how to deal with this. You are certainly able to walk the lonesome road on that way. You are able to be out in the spiritual realm. It's part of the reason, I think, why you are a little bit more mature than the other people around you. We also have star attunements. So this is about high spiritual healing, activating your ascension and your life mission. So there's something in this. And I do think pay attention to your dreams, because I think you lucid dream potentially, even if you don't know that you do. There's something in this which is about you really coming into who you are, which I think is the Ace of Pentacles here, really starting to manifest who you are. But you have been too self-effacing. I would also suggest, if you do have access to a good astrologer, see what's in your astrology chart, because I think you'll find that maybe quite a few of your planets are in the lower half of the chart, which is often someone who is a little bit more behind the scenes or feels more comfortable behind the scenes. But it would be then very interesting to see what's at your midheaven, what signs at your midheaven, what planets are in the upper thing, how do they interact with that. I think you're going to find there's something that gives you the key about how to express yourself if you're not feeling that comfortable in doing it, if you have access, as I say, to an astrological chart or an astrologer. And to finish off, let's look at astrology a little bit more and chakras with the Astro Chakra system for some other advice for you, just to round this all off and bring it together. Because I'm going to go to this one first. This is where I think we're getting the astral projection. This is telling me with the sixth chakra, so the third eye chakra, and with Mercury there, that you are very psychic. There is a psychic connection to you. You can get a lot of information at the astral level and the dream level, all of those sort of things. Pay a lot of attention to that. I think many of the people who've come here probably don't necessarily see themselves as psychic or in the spiritual realms. I mean, if you do, then you'll already know this. But I think a lot of the people coming here, they're kind of more around the material world in some way. But you're underestimating what you have there. Pay attention to that, because I actually think you can communicate some of this almost astrally to the people around you to position the whole discussion to get the best that you can, and also to give yourself more knowledge about what's going on, to stress test what you feel, because this feels quite reactive emotionally, like maybe you've tried to say something and you felt you didn't get the response or you weren't listened to, and so you've kind of shrunk back within yourself. I think almost testing it out on that intuitive sort of level, and the senses again will be really helpful for you, because it is about using the Mercury energy at the moment in its best way. Over here around creativity, it's interesting because we have Saturn, so the sacral chakra, which is about creativity and so forth, and we have Saturn, which is about responsibility. You've definitely been the most mature person in your group, and I don't mean necessarily that you're the oldest, you're just the most mature, the most pragmatic, and there is something in the creative process that you're doing in whatever this is where you need to bring that forward, that pragmatism that was the Fool reversed, because it is important to who you are at your most individual level, at your most authentic level. With the root chakra having Uranus there, that's all about who you truly are. This is definitely a reading that is about the need at this time to use what I think is very positive energy to step forward into who you are, rather than being just part of the group or behind the scenes in some way. So pile 3, I hope that resonates for you, and I hope it's helpful. I hope you enjoyed the reading as well. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do want to share, I'd love to hear about this in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So this first line of tarot cards from the pack that you chose to come to this reading are meant to give a bit of an idea about what can be expressed, what can be created, what can be decided using the solar eclipse energy. And then we're going to have a look at what you really need to focus on to make the most of this energy and to make sure your facts are right. So there's a couple of things that are very clear in this to me. Firstly, for you, this is something about expressing who you are emotionally, authentically, and in the way that you want to relate, whether it's in family, love relationships, what you want to celebrate and bring together, and so forth, because we have the Queen of Cups and the Four of Wands. So there is a real opportunity for expressing something authentically about what would make you happy, what is the definition of good relationships. And this could be in career as much as it could be in love or friendships. I think for some it's with family, because this is juxtaposed by the challenge I think you've been dealing with. We've got the Empress reversed, the Six of Wands reversed, and the Chariot reversed. I feel like there's been a maternal figure around many of you. It may be your mother. It doesn't have to be. It could just be someone who has maternal energies, but they're energies that have not been as nurturing as you would have liked, or as that you as a very authentic and caring and generous person would want. If anything, there's been a competition. Some of you, I have to say, this is quite specific, have maybe been in a competition with a sibling or with your mother or some sort of nurturing figure. And they like to have the spotlight, and they saw you as threatening that spotlight in some way with the Six of Wands reversed. There is something here about not being given the recognition and the respect and the reward that you deserve, because you really are someone who puts relationships in a very high esteem, and you really are very emotionally mature. But there's some sort of energy that has made you doubt yourself, and I think it's been, this energy has said to you that you have to kind of go along with what they want to keep the peace in some way. With the Chariot reversed, it's like they are a little bit over the top. For some, you're dealing with someone a bit narcissistic, I have to say. And whether they're still in your life or whether it's an imprint that you are still carrying and you're really sorting through at the moment from something in your childhood, I'm not sure. There's definitely a sense here of someone who, in a nurturing sort of role, has repressed your sense of who you are and not given you the recognition that you deserve. but has made it very hard for you to express your hurt around that, because they would be likely to then go, you're hurting them or you're upsetting them. They're very touchy by the looks of things. If it's not as explicit as that, then there is something in you where you are trying to determine, I think, whether you will be able to be what you want to be in the world, standing in your own stead and making your own rules around relationships, or whether you are needing to follow something more conventional. And I don't think you really want to be that conventional. This doesn't mean that you wouldn't necessarily move in with someone, marry, or any of those things, but I think there is something about the conventional that makes you feel like you've lost control, if that's the case, and not being recognised for how far you can go. This could be the classic thing of someone who is trying to decide between career success and relationship success, potentially, and does one have to be sacrificed for the other? If you're not relating to the sort of manipulative emotional energy of someone as you're coming into a greater sense of authenticity, then it may be you trying to decide, can I be in a happy environment under my terms, or do I have to suppress some of that to meet what is socially, culturally, workplace, or whatever required? And this has an important element about how you are recognised. It's almost like this feels like a compromise card. It's like, are you compromising to keep other people happy, which is suppressing what you should be rewarded for? Or are you compromising with more conventional or ways of doing things that you're not really into, but to find the balance for something that's happier for yourself? So the good news is I feel like you're sitting in this energy. This is just whatever the challenge is at the moment, and a challenge that you might have been dealing with for a while. So let's ask what you need to really focus on to make the right decisions in this time, and to really, really maximize that Four of Wands energy and the Queen of Cups energy, because you're really good at relationships. Like if you feel you aren't, it's because there's manipulative people around, or you're in an environment that requires a certain belief structure and keeping the peace at all costs, but which isn't as authentic as you are. So let's see. Okay, so this is definitely all around relationship love. I really don't think that this is much about career or creativity. If that's what you're particularly drawn to at the moment, then possibly check out a different reading, because this is so much around relationships, how we relate, what it means to be in a relationship, and so forth. Some of you are dealing with a really significant relationship at the moment, which is testing your sense of self-esteem. On one hand, you maybe have some indications that there is the capacity to finally found the true connection. On the other, there is some force that is making you either feel uncertain or which is actively working against it. So there's potentially a divine union, twin flame type of energy around this, or it could just be, with the Tower and the Two of Cups together, a significant impact emotionally by someone in your life, probably a romance, but possibly also, as I say, a maternal figure that has an almost overwhelming impact on your life and on who you are, and threatens potentially this sense of equilibrium and authenticity that you've brought about. In either case, the Tower energy needs to be sorted through and gone through, and you need to understand that things are probably a little bit overheated and hyperbolic at the moment with the Tower there. Sometimes, particularly when it's around relationships, I found with Tower energy that really powerfully drawn together people can sometimes not come together simply because they're so frightened by the amount of energy. It's like to be told no by that person would be so devastating, you just don't ask the question. So if this is around a relationship, it may be that part of what you have to focus on is how to get past that fear to get to the point where the question is at least put on the table, because it looks at the moment with the Page of Swords reversed as though there's been an impulse towards not asking it. Like that could really upset the equilibrium and take you into this sense of denial over here. It's definitely around a relationship. I feel like there's a lot to be said for the relationship if it's a romance. If it's around other things, it's around how you relate in general and what you've learnt from whatever this nurturing figure is. And maybe they've taught you that you are meant to always be alone, or that you're not worthy of love. So one of the things you have to really question in this is anything you heard from that sort of energy, that sort of figure. It's not rational. If that has happened to you, it's come from jealousy, it's come from competition. So you need to be really aware of what caused that and what impact that can have on you when you come across really significant relationships. It silences you in a way that you shouldn't be silenced. You're meant to sort of connect and make that decision. So this is very, very much about standing in your own truth around relationship and understanding what is right to you, but not replicating patterns of the past that made you feel alone and unable to speak. So it's pretty full on. Okay, so let's have a look at what other energies were under the tarot card that brought you to this reading. So I'm starting firstly with a couple of cards from the Heart Code Oracle decks, and they are on different topics. The ones that I have pulled cards from this time are around lifestyle and well-being. So firstly, for well-being, we have surrender. Okay. And then for lifestyle, we have stagnant. Okay. So I think you get caught in this energy, and I think this is an opportunity to be aware of it. It's an energy that keeps you alone. It's an energy that keeps you stuck. Your lifestyle is caught in some sort of old patterns around relationships, family, and so forth, when in actual fact you're ready to step into something that is much more you. And I think the surrender here is a double message. It's don't surrender to this past energy. Surrender to the powerful connection that I think is coming in for you, and your definition of what it would be to move forward, not what other people say. So if you haven't met this person, I think it's coming in soon. It may literally come in the next few weeks, or it might be coming in, say, next year. And this is meant to be just to make you understand and make a commitment to yourself that you're not going to stay stuck in old patterns. You're going to surrender to the true emotional truth that you've come to, so that you will be able to speak, so that you won't be stopped, so that you won't instantly, when you need to be rational, go into a pattern that is emotional and programmed and not of the truth, so that you can move to the truth. Okay, so let's have a look at what creative energy is around you at this time. And it says rest. Yeah, because I don't feel that I don't think this is about creativity as such. I think this is going to be about relationship, and I think it's significant. And if you have come across it already, you're already dealing with it a lot, and this may simply be saying give yourself time to rest, give yourself time to sleep. Don't feel you have to make every decision instantly. This is for the long haul. Meditation, all of those sort of things could be helpful, but making sure that you feel strong enough for this, because there's a very strong energy that's pulling in the wrong direction to you, and you really have to kind of separate yourself from that. So I also pulled a card from a deck which has sort of energy around companionship and support when one is going through difficult sort of times and so forth. So I think it's pretty opposite for this. And we've got the sadness of letting go. So yeah, you need to let go of something. And look, it could well be something very close like a parental figure or something like that. You need to understand, even if the person didn't mean harm, there is a lot of insecurity in this person, and they have been really suppressive, and you need to let go of that. You need to let go of those patterns and understand sometimes it's not fair, and it's not even that it comes from a lack of conscious love, but it just comes from whatever patterns they might have inherited and so forth. So you need to let go of something to allow this new energy to come in. So what spiritual gifts would help you as you're letting go of the past energy that isn't working, and you're bringing in the kind of clarity you need so that you can deal with this very powerful new relationship or connection that I think is coming in or has just entered your life potentially? Youth director and claircognizance. So this is interesting. This is sort of like talking about spiritual support, educating and leading by example, and volunteering and so forth. So that sort of sense of being with groups of people that are supportive. This could be anything. This could be that in the more negative side, that it was something like that, some sort of group, community group or something like that that you were in that was in fact the thing that was suppressive, and you need to separate from it. It could also be that there are groups in the community that are supportive to you and that you could involve yourself in some way, maybe to help others because of the learnings that you have, that will in its own sense and nourish you as well. So it's getting support from others but also giving support to others, I think, there. Clear cognizance, clear knowing. There's a side of you that really does know this stuff. You really do have a good sense of it, and I think that's good to see that there. This will not be news to you. You are aware of these patterns, and even if you're still a bit emotionally enmeshed in them, you do understand where they come from, and I think that gives you a better chance to forgive as well, particularly connected in a way to your youth director, to the concept of the supportive community, of understanding these things are very, very complex, and getting them sometimes to understand where something comes from can help you forgive and not feel as hurt by it. Okay, so let's finish off with some Astro Chakra cards. I'm getting to that some of you may get involved in some sort of voluntary group, and that's where you meet someone. By the way, that's just a very random separate thing that just came through. So I'm going to finish off with Astro Chakra cards, just to give astrology and chakra combined energies to bring this all together for you. Okay, so firstly we have the root chakras. They're very important to the base of who you are. You have Saturn there, so you're naturally very mature, very disciplined, very organized, and I think you learnt a lot, particularly in your family, but I think you do need to be aware of where the Saturn has worked for you and where it has been too constricting, because Saturn is almost the opposite energy of the Tower here. So Tower is more like Uranus. I think that there is something coming in that will make you question some of that, but you can keep the discipline of what was fair and right, but don't feel stuck in the past, I think, because there's a lot of spiritual energy coming through with you, with your clear knowing. You have the crown chakra here with Neptune, which is inspiration and spiritual beliefs. It is telling me for some that something around this influence on you and your relationships and so forth is about maybe spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, community beliefs in that way. So there could be a direct connection with all of this. It may be saying that the Neptunian energy astrologically at the moment is the thing you really have to kind of cut through and maybe even let go. For some of you, it's quite specific, it's not going to be everybody, but for some of you, this is about letting go of some spiritual or religious beliefs that are no longer serving you, or which gave you a distorted view of relationships and who you were in some way. And using your intuition, your clear knowing, to bring the Jupiter wisdom in. There is a search here, a search for what is true. Now, you are further along the way with the Four of Wands and the Queen of Cups there than you maybe give yourself credit for. I do think a significant relationship will come in, if it hasn't already, that will take you further towards that. But always remember, it is about you becoming more of who you are. And that's part of how you deal with the intensity of the Tower energy. It's important that you speak out. It's important that you don't feel like you need to be alone or separate. It's important that you assess the longer term viability of a relationship by whether it can take you to that happy place that you feel emotionally authentic. That's what your intuition will tell you. That's what your spirituality should be taking you towards. And ultimately, that's what you then commit to through Saturn, that creates the foundation of your life. So it's pretty heavy energy, but I think quite promising. I just think that there's some toxic patterns that you need to let go of from the past. They're not your patterns, they're patterns that were put on you by someone or groups of people. But I think once you sort of really start to clear that out, you bring in energy and the strength to deal with the energy to really get, as I say, to that Four of Wands and Queen of Cups space. So I hope that you enjoyed that reading, Pile 4. I hope it resonated for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you know what this is all about and would care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.